and hope today we will not have issues or any kind of disruptions. So welcome all of you once again. With the number of participants who have joined in, it's great to see your enthusiasm and interest for making sure that you know whatever you dream, your dreams come true of moving out of the country. So we start with your activity roundup. So I have my co-host Nandita. Can you move on to the activity roundup so that we can start with the discussions? So people who have, kind of looks like some of the issues in terms of audible or not audible, please go ahead and chat with us and then we will be more than happy. We are on a Zoom platform and we do not see any issues with internet today. So great. So the activity that we had given up or the assignment that was given was on the sustainability as as a topic. Sustainability ensure prosperity for people, populace, and planet. Now we were discussing in today's session in two halves, we are going to discuss about the speaking tips and techniques and a little to do with writing tips and technique. So people who are all going in either for general or for academic, it will be helpful for all the groups because the structure and how to use word power and what is the difference between power word and impact words or ornamental words. We will be going ahead and discussing all of these today. So in that activity, there were 3 questions that were asked. And those 3 questions were, why is it essential? Describe the impact. And what was your opinion with the solution to bridge if there is any gap? So these were the 3 portions. Now, one of the ways to look at it is, Nandita, can you please go ahead and keep moving ahead for people to be able to see the screen? Hope everybody is able to see the screen. Just click on enter, and I think that will be helpful. Just keep entering. Yeah. So these were the 3 portions of the 3 parts of the questions that were asked. And as a part of the word list, there were some of the words that were given, like intricate, propagate, disposal, embrace, recondite, strenuous, significance, encompass, and convergence. One of the ways to look at practicing your word power is to pick up these words, and then before you go ahead and do the activity, first break down the topic. Break the topic down into the different words and pick up the words that you're able to understand, and then gauge the topic from there. The other day we were discussing, and I'll go ahead and repeat that today as well. So the topic is sustainability. Now we know or we understand what sustainability is, which means anything that can be long lasting. And here there are 3 different words: people, populace, and planet. Planet recalls or connects to anything to do with environment, natural resources. Populace could be anything under the universe as a creature, and people could be to the human race. Now, there are 2 other words: ensure prosperity, which means here the topic is, typically, if we want to simply put it down, it can be, is there, or when we are talking about sustainability, we must look at an overall engrossed development and prosperity for people, creatures, and planet or natural resources together. Now, when we are looking at all the 3, that is when we will be So in that case, that is where you can kind of look at working it out. Now, while you're working this out, how you can work on the word list. Here it says, talks about intricate means, it can be intrinsic, it can be in details. Propagate is when you are wanting to talk about the balance, how you will be able to propagate the prosperity or the development bit. Disposal is a very common word to dispose of anything that is not irrelevant or anything that is going to have a negative impact. For example, if we are talking about environmental disbalance, then we can talk about how disposals of plastics can be heavily negatively impactful, and vis-a-vis the bringing in the balance with some of the materials which can be recycled. So embrace is typically to encompass or hug. Recondite is difficult, complex. Strenuous, anything that creates stress. So these are very simple words that can be added on as a word power. So out of these, the other way to look at to help you build on your word power. Nandita, can we go over to the next slide, please? So how we can move over to more of word power and usage is we need to understand the difference between high impact power words, which can be more relevant to the topics that are given, versus what we typically call as ornamental words. Now, if I am giving you or talking about a word, well, this looks typically very conjunct to me. Anyone who can give me in chat any answers, what do you understand by this word cogent? It looks really cogent to me. Anyone who can, probably look at or think what is this word typically? The word is cogent. I'm just writing it in the I'm typing it in the chat for everybody to get the word. Now, this is particularly taken into consideration as an ornamental word. So a more simpler word could be difficult or complex or anything to do with, highly complex, which is not understandable. So every single day, if you pick up 2 to 3 words and then you start using those words 5 times in a row for the next 3 days, it is for sure that you will remember and you won't forget, instead of kind of mugging up everything and working on. So in order to structure when you are speaking, the first thing is you need to be very, very careful about your speaking construct versus what the strategic component is. Now, when we are talking about the strategic component, it is more to do with how you are breaking down the topic to get a specific understanding and you link it to a relevance to which you will be speaking for next 2 minutes. Remember, especially for part 1, it is more of generic questions. So part 2, part 3 are more of, little complex questions pertaining to some of the discussions that you have already had with the examiner. So when it's a cue card also, most of the time you will get a topic relative to some generic complexity. So in that case, what you need to do is first look at the component breakdown and how you will break down the component to attach it to your area of expertise is extremely important. If I'm from a finance background and I get something pertaining to the topic that is given as a part of sustainability, I would look at working out from people to populace to environment and linking it to my financial background as to where it will have the negative impact or how it can be balanced in terms of economy. So I will not only attach it to ecology to some extent and move it slowly into economy because I will be, you know, I'm just giving an example that I'm an expert in a finance sector and I do a lot of studies and researches on economics. So it is on to you as an individual. It's not the examiner that the examiner is looking for a certain specific answer. What they're looking at is, are you able to link your thoughts to your areas of expertise and are confidently able to convey a specific message that you want to convey? Hope this helps for a lot of you. Then language acquisition. Now, when we are talking about the language acquisition, it is more to do with applying a context to the topic. Now, whether it is for writing or for, can you please go back to the slide, the previous slide, please? So, so in terms of the context, how you are applying the context is also something which is highly scoring. So if you stick to a particular context to which you are very comfortable to speak on, just continue doing so, while you also ensure that your rate of speech is not extremely high. Normally in Indian context, we feel that when we are talking with a higher speed, we have good fluency and we sound confident. Well, that's just a myth. It is not necessary that you speak with a very, very high speed. That's not necessarily going to keep you fluent. Why? Because then there will be breaks in your thought process. Your thought to expression speed has to match up where you think easily, and then while thinking, you're able to speak. So if you rate your speaking skills to somewhere between a max of 150 words per minute, which is on a higher range because in India, we normally speak around 234 words per minute. So we typically need to cut down our speed to 150 odd words. It will help us sound more confident, use better words, which are a little uncommon, but not ornamental for sure. When we are living in in a native land, we normally don't speak bookish language, but we also do not use the daily slangs or the translations that we use generically in our country. So that's something which you will all need to be very, very careful about. Um, Here I have given some more points like linking a device and supporting your ideas. Always remember, whether you are speaking or you are writing, support or bring in examples which are more of experiential. If you have any experiential ideas or experiential incidents or situations that you can talk about, great. If you don't have any of similar experience, pick up something which is more to do with your creativity and imagination and then put it as a generic context. However, don't try making up a complete story which sounds a little fictitious typically. So because again, everybody looks at that human touch, and that's something everyone will be looking at. Whosoever is scratching on the screen, please don't. And thank you for not doing so. And then linking a device. Linking a device typically is for attaching any of the tools that you think which can be technically helpful for the context of the topic. So whenever you are talking about the context of a topic, any of the tools that you can ever use technically to make it sound more interesting is something that can again fetch you higher scores. So can we go over to the next slide? Here, the next slide is all about how you kind of take notes and how you map your notes every time. Because when you're going in for speaking, your section 2 as a cue card or part 2 and part 3, you normally get almost a minute's time to make notes. So, given on a topic, you almost need to pick notes which you can connect and talk and make it as a logical flow. A logical flow is extremely important. So your structure has to begin with a platform statement, and then you move on to looking at what you have made notes on, and then you move on from there and make it to a more detailed discussion if need be, or just conclude with anything or typically which is more positive. Now, for example, here we have taken an example of a building, say, here, if you look at what the building is, it's Burj Khalifa. So the name of the building, what significance it has, any history if it is attached to, and some of the details that you can talk about. What we generally give you as a tip is whenever you get a topic on a cue card, most of the time, don't look at it as a topic, but look at it as some point where you are going to answer few of the questions which is related to what is it, where is it, when was it, why was it, and where was it, and is there anything that I can talk about as to how was it. So if I'm answering these 5 questions any point in time for any of the pointers or discussions, it gives me a better comfort zone than thinking about it as a topic and then trying to correlate and break it down and take it further. So you can pick and choose whichever method you want to go in for. So can we, so the next slide. The next slide, please. So here there is just a little to do with how you map your ideas. As I said earlier, simply you can put the key concept somewhere in between out here, which can be either a topic which is based on a thing, on a person, on somebody who you admire, on a situation, into an emotional discussion, or a generic controversial topic. So that's the key of the concept. So the key concept would be what is the main crux of the topic that is given in the cue card or as a part of the question that is asked. From there, you draw out, should I start with a dialogue or should I go with a thought? Or is it that I can start with a platform statement? What would be more interesting? And based on that decision, you start with that. Instead, normally what people do is they introduce the topic saying, hi, my name is so, and today I'm going to talk about this topic, because that's kind of monotonous, redundant, and most of the people go with that kind of an idea. So instead of doing so, if you start with a dialogue or a platform statement, it will always have a natural flow that you will be getting. And then you again jump down to what, why, where, how. And here, sometimes, now depending on whether it is a situation or it is it's a thing or it's a person, you can always change the theme. And how you can change the theme is if it is about as simple a thing as a pen, then you can talk about, you can start with pen is mightier than sword. That's the platform statement. And then you draw out the topic from there, that pen is mightier than sword. So today, let's get deeper or dig deeper into how pen can be more stronger, or how pen is actually stronger than what people think is a physical power with a sword. And then you can move on from there. Now, when we are moving out from there, then we talk about what the pen is all about, how it helps writing. Is there a typical feature of any ballpoint or gel or whatsoever? And then you can get down to the technicalities of the details. And then can we attach any intrinsic theme to it? What are the features? What are the benefits? However, if it is a situation, you talk about the historical anecdotes, or you talk about describing the situation and the impact of the situation. So this is the way you kind of divide between different ideas and topics that you get, and how you again look at what way you are mapping it. So how you map the title concept to what exactly you will be discussing, and how you will draw out your discussion with your examiner, because whatever you are going to speak, based on that, there will be further shorter questions as a part of the discussion that will be asked. It's a two-way interaction kinds, and I'm sure all of us know about it. Can we move to the next slide? So hope, these were some generic tips that were given that can work for you while you're speaking. However, one of the most important points to remember is, especially for section 2 and section 3 of the speaking questions, do remember to keep a tab on your time, because when you're given a topic, or when you get the cue card and you get the 1 minute to write, once you've written and once you start speaking, do speak constantly for at least 2 minutes. And trust me, 2 minutes is a long time, which we generically feel or don't keep a tab on. So if I ask all of you to close your eyes and quietly sit for 1 minute, trust me, it is going to be a difficult task, because it feels as if, it's like it's almost 5 minutes. That's the feeling. So 2 minutes is a long time, and you all need to keep a tab on the timing when you are speaking. So whenever you practice to speak, just make sure that you're using a stopwatch to see, without looking at the time, if you are constantly speaking, when do you stop? When do you just take that long break? And that's the time you know that, okay, this is the time, and this is how, in the upcoming sessions, we will talk about how we can, if we are going lower with the timeline, then how we can stretch the time, and what are the tips to stretch and keep a tab on the time while we are speaking. Those 11 to 14 minutes are really crucial to get a desired band score. And pronunciation, or your voice tone, pitch, volume, all the parameters kept aside, fluency, comprehension, and relevance to the topic are the scorers for you. Now, moving on to the writing bit. We call it the 4-step magic technique to write. say in form of general context or academic context, the questions that you get as task 1 and task 2, you can always use these technique to get your writing in a proper flow, and it must have a logical connection from the introduction to conclusion. So that relevance is again utmost importance, because are you not only connecting to the question, but are your thoughts flowing at a rate which makes a logical division from introducing the topic to making it more interesting and driving or diving deep into the details and then concluding. So when we are talking about this, the introduction again, while you introduce the topic, please do remember, never repeat the question to introduce the topic, which 85% to 87% of the IELTS examinees actually have this error when they are writing, and as an introduction to write, they normally start with repeating the question. So please never do that. Introduce the topic as either you feel as an opinion or a generic context, and then attach that to the topic or the question asked, and then you can go deeper down. While you going down, once the introduction is done, say for example, if there is a writing topic, let's take the same example, the activity roundup example. Here, we could introduce the topic as, uh, you know, uh, either in form of ecological disbalance. So ecological disbalance today has brought about a lot of um, uh, trouble around the world. We see so many tornadoes and natural calamities and global warming, so on and so forth. So in order to discuss on that, we today will be talking as a part of this discussion or as a part to write. My opinion is we can actually look at discussing about the balance of the ecological balance. So, once you introduce this topic, where you can actually put down as a part of ecological balance, prosperity for every creature under the universe is equally important. So you have actually put down the question, but in a completely different way. And that makes sense because the examiner or the evaluator gets to understand that you have comprehended the question exactly to the point. And then you move down to detailing on the topic, which falls as paragraph 2. The first para or first few lines are your introduction, and then you move to para 2, which is the body of the topic. Now, if you are actually going in for academics, then your task 1 generically is a graphical graph, either a graph or a few numbers or some analytical stuff that is given. So either directions, analytical stuff. So here, what you talk about is you first give an overview summary of what you see in general, and then you dive deep down talking about each of the portions in the graph or in the table. As a trend, you can talk about as a trend, then you talk in details about certain breakdown of analysis. So say, for example, if there is a graph given about the age difference or the gender difference, then you talk first that the entire graph is entire graph is all about the gender differences across years 1990 to 2017. So that's the basic summary as you introduce for academics. And then you move down as to the portion of the graph, the actually graph shows or displays the entire group and age group of people from this age group to this age group, and versus the number of years and how the trend has been going upwards or downwards depending on what the graph is actually numbered for. And if it is a general topic, it's a letter. So we will have a separate session for general writing task and typically to get a feeler about the letters actually. So then the next bit is make sure once you have given all the description and details, definitely add your opinion to your topic. So while you're writing, always add an opinion to it. What is your opinion as a solution to whatever problems that you have discussed or whatever issues or impacts that you have discussed? And then end it with a flow and the context attached with a positive note. The more positive and generalized note you have, it will be better, because the more biased it goes, there is always some other thing that comes up, and there's a chance that you may lose some score. So if you keep it more neutral, more general, and make sure that it's positive, it will always have a better and a higher impact on the evaluator, because towards the end, the evaluator may feel that, okay, now this is what I will be getting. But then if there is a positive note out there with a good solution, it always gives that boost, and then there's a better chance to get a better score. So that's another tip that you guys can take on. Remember to put down everything as a part of a positive conclusion. Okay, so here are a couple more tips for you to write for the writing task in 1 and 2, whether general or academic, doesn't matter. As I said, never begin by repeating the question. And practice to gauge the word limits. Remember, if you go 5 words up and down, you will always tend to lose score, plus, minus, whichever way. So you try to keep it within the limit of 1 or 2. It is always good and great to keep the word limit. So you need to practice exactly in the IELTS answer sheet that you can download any of the IELTS answer sheet tag questions, and then in each line, what is the number of words that you are writing, and then the number of lines that you're supposed to write. So 150 words, 250 words, depends on your handwriting, but keep a gauge on the word limit and see. So then, because once you start practicing on the answer sheet, it will give you an entire idea of, okay, this is how much I need to write in order to keep myself set to the number of word limit. That's a scorer again. And we did talk about the 4 steps. So that's introduction, then the body, where you get down to the details, and then put down your opinion, summarize as a part of the body or the opinion, and then you conclude with a positive note. So introduction, body, opinion, summary, and conclusion are those 4 steps which will get you there, and it'll give a structure to your writing. Can we go to the next one? So I'm getting to see a lot of questions in the chat. We have a question answer round. We will take on that. Okay, so can we move to the previous slide, please? Yeah. This is one of the strategy which works everywhere. Guys, this is extremely important. Do take a note of this. Um, from the examiner's perspective, it is also important for us as examinee to understand uh, the behavior or what the examiners or the evaluators come through with. And uh, this is relevant to manage the evaluators or the examiners while speaking or while writing, for that matter. So what they score you on is how relevant and how well developed your response was, depending on what was asked and what was discussed. And was your idea supported? We have already taken that point right at the beginning. Make sure you support your ideas with examples and with logical, relevant facts if you can attach in terms of historical data or anecdote if possible. How logical, flow, and coherent it was to the context that you had drawn out. You remember we talked about the context. So whether the context that you had drawn out was sequential, logical, and was it having a good, interesting flow where it began with the introduction and ended with a conclusion. Look at it from that Indian perspective where, you know, every Bollywood movie has a robust introduction and and typically larger than life kind of ending a lot of times. So we need to think through on those lines and kind of draw out most of our conclusion like so. Again, fluent, flexible range of vocabulary. As I said, one of the ways to look at your vocabulary is you can kind of pick up 2 to 3 words every single day and start using them at least 5 times for the next few days so that it is there at the back of your mind and you know that you can use them multiple times and that develops on your confidence to build on your vocab range. Sentence structure and word order, be very precise and use simple structure. Okay, don't jump from different tenses. People try to make more complex statements, but I would suggest that the simplest of the statement is the subject verb object kind of statement, and most of the time if you stick to those basic fundamental structure where your subject verb agreement is in place in terms of grammar, because most of the time people lose marks or they are scored down typically in form of sentence construction or sentence structure, and especially with the word order when you're trying to write something, and the word order gap gives a different complex, non-flow and non-coherent context to your writing, especially. So just try to stick to the basics in terms of tenses, in terms of subject verb agreement as part of grammar. And remember, in, on, at, preposition. Your sentence structure goes haywire if you have preposition errors. Most of the time we have seen this error in the night. That's a very common error. So please be careful. Check out on, in, on, at usage in terms of preposition, especially for days, dates, range of time, place. So time and place preposition is a very, very common error in our country. So we need to be really careful about that too. And keep your simple tenses, simple past, simple present, simple future. Once a while, go down to the perfect tenses. Try to refrain from perfect continuous tenses. Most of the time, if you have started writing or started discussing a point in one particular tense, stick to the tense. Don't jump from past to future, future to perfect, and so on and so forth. And that's where the structure goes haywire. Branch off, this is one of the areas which we have found as a very, very common error with a lot of people. So if it is okay to ask the examiner to repeat a question if there is something that you are not able to gauge at the first go, or you were not able to focus at the first go. It is absolutely okay to ask or to request a repeat of the question, but most of the time what people do is if they don't get the question, they just branch off to some other drawn out idea, and then that goes completely off track as non-comprehensible. So if there is a comprehension issue, it is digressing from the topic, and if you digress out of the topic, then there is a trouble. So if certain times you feel that, okay, I'm not sure about this question, request with specific details to the examiner, and they're okay to repeat the question for you, or answer any detailed pointers or query that you have. But don't branch off, because that goes as digression from away from the topic. So we are 46 minutes up now, and I hope that this was helpful for most of you, and practicing this will get you there to some extent. We have an upcoming sessions for the IELTS aspirants, and it is for 60 hours. So we have 40 hours of interactive sessions and 20 hours of practice session and mock test as well. So specifically, if you really want to go down and kind of join us, the course fee typically is 10,000. However, for this group, it will be 50% discount at a 5,000 rupees, and you will get a 60 hours of complete personalized interactive time where we will cover every portion from LSRW to detailed reading. There's a part of question, yes, no, not given, which is done in details in this part, because that's where the maximum score down happens. And all other parts of LSRW will be taken care of. Time for Q&A. I see a lot of chat questions out here, so I'm going to answer most of them. Can we move over to the next slide if you want? So somebody writes, you told new words. New words use gives you high score, but if we speak in simple words, how many marks can we score? Okay. When I say new words, I don't say that all the time you use tough words, but when you are speaking on a particular topic, do not repeat the same words again and again. What is suggestible? If you really want to say something similar, use a different word for that. And that's a high scorer. But if you keep repeating, then it's a markdown. And that's something that's very important for all of you to understand. I hope my answer satisfies your question. Okay, somebody is asking, okay, hi Sumandeep, then how we could be able to cover grammatical range. So we will be having these small sessions and webinars, and each of the portions, each part of different sections. So today we did generically about writing and speaking, which can be applied by everybody. But then we go deep down and we will be having sessions. So you're more than welcome to join in and get more intrinsic ideas. So grammar is a part of some of the sessions that we will be taking on, especially for reading and writing and speaking. Somebody is asking, will it give a negative impression on examiner if we ask them to repeat questions? So I think I answered this question while we were on with our discussion. So if you didn't get the question, please request the examiner, and that is not a markdown. Why? Because sometimes we all are human and we do recognize that, our focus level goes down, and that's absolutely okay to get a repeat of the question. It doesn't have any impression. So all the examiners are kind of trained so. Okay, so I have another question, and speaking not exactly, you can ask to your examiner, rephrase the question once in a formal tone. Yeah, that's fine. You can ask once. That's absolutely okay. So MCQs are the most difficult for me in listening and reading. So please join our listening, session that we will be having very soon. I'm sure you will get a lot to understand and a lot more to take on listening and reading as well. So we will be regularly having sessions on these modules. So you're more than welcome to kind of take on that. So please clear about paraphrasing and thesis too. Okay, paraphrasing is as a part of your opinion, when you're putting down your opinion or solutions, that is when you kind of give down, paraphrase your entire bit down into 3 lines or statements, and then that kind of helps. Um, in what context your thesis bit you're asking, if you could give me a little more insight, or you can put down right now on the chat, I will be able to answer that. So in general, line necessary in introduction? Not necessary. You can always introduce it as creatively to see. The idea of introducing a topic is to bring in that surprise note, or bring in that curiosity, and that draw that interest. So in whichever way we are able to do so, that is perfectly okay. So yes, if we take an example, the classes are conducted separately for GT and AT general test. Yes, academic and general, the sessions are separate because academic is totally in a different tone and different note, and GT is again different. Can you please elaborate your fast track, IELTS fast track, with more details about timings and fees? Timings, once the batch size is done, then we keep flexible timings, because if most of them are working, then we keep up with flexible timings. The entire fast track course is for 10,000 rupees, but then for this webinar participants, and for this special group of people who seem to be really interested, it's a discounted fees of 5,000 for 60 hours of interaction with me. And that 60 hours is 40 hours live sessions, tips, tricks, secrets, and 20 hours of practice and mock tests, exactly the way it is done as and when you take the exam for the IELTS. And Also, in this session, we do give you a little insight about the country that you're choosing, because the country that you choose also has some diction differences, and those are covered, which is generally not covered by most of them. Some people prefer reading newspapers for getting news instead of electronic media. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this? Yeah, this can be taken as a great topic and a great question. People with traditional thought group, they prefer reading a newspaper. And remember, newspaper reading not only is, you know, not only is interesting, but it is also an addiction which keeps people engaged into real-time ideas of what press is all about. So some of the individuals are attached to that. And it also helps you speed up on your paper reading. So when you're reading books, earlier when you used to read books, so it had this advantage of speeding up your reading type than going through the media bites, because media bites are most of the time, you know, highlighting the pointers that is essential, and some of the words pointers are not as essential, so that they're either in the smaller portion and, you know, in lower cases, or bold or not bold, and so on and so forth. Also, reading a newspaper or reading a book gives you a better health because you get a good sleep. You remember, most of the time, even during your childhood, you would have experienced this, that the days or the evenings that you studied a lot, that was the time that you slept better. And many a times, your parents would get you or get any child to get to the habit of reading before they go off to sleep, because it gives you um, a very, very calm sleep and a good sleep. So those are the advantages, and you know. So disadvantages in today's time, time is essential. So sitting back and taking time for newspapers is a difficult task. So people who are doing so may be having less time for other stuff or other developmental stuff. So that's one of the disadvantages. Course duration, 60 hours. So somebody is asking course duration, 60 hours. Advantages outweigh disadvantages. Depends how, see, again, put up a context to it. It is okay to keep up more disadvantages and less of advantages, but try to end with positive, even if it has more disadvantages. That is the keynote. Classes conducted Monday to Friday and daily 1 hour 30 minutes. Typically they are 2 hours because you know, you not only, so we believe in the in the experiential and adult learning process. So if you don't do it and don't act on it, you don't remember. We are all adults, and we believe strongly in this, that unless I do thing, I will not be able to recollect it. So today I can lecture you for 3 hours, it doesn't matter. But unless you, if I am not making sure that you're able to get to the point where you are acting on it, it will not be having the right kind of impact. Say, hence, most of our sessions are typically 2 hours. I don't have any information about a topic given to me. Can I ask for change in topic? I would always suggest there is a way. We call it the creative, innovative way to get to a topic where you don't have any idea. Now, as we talked about, when you're breaking down, there will be words that you will be able to understand. And from those words, pick up and attach or connect those words. See, no topic is completely scientific or completely out of the blue. It cannot be possible because IELTS as a base, as a CEFR, the framework of IELTS doesn't believe in that. So there can't be a topic which will have words and all the words are not comprehensible, not possible. So there are ways when we go deeper down into other sessions, definitely there is a session on one of these as well as to how to get more imaginative and creative when you don't know or you don't have any realistic information about a particular topic. Now, for example, if there is a topic given on OCD and psychological disorder, that's completely technical, right? And most of us may not have any clue about it. However, if we are supposed to talk, then how do we talk? Okay, so these are the discussions that we will have in further sessions where to get down to the complete um, the so-called more detailed stuff. How to gain confidence for IELTS. Um, there is no shortcut except for practice. That's the answer. Apply all the tips, apply the strategy and practice. The more you practice, the confident you get. Okay, so we are up on time. Thank you so much for um, your time. I see somebody is writing, I'm preparing for 2 months continuously. Okay, do you have any writing corrections? Yes, ma'am, please say the fees. It is 5,000 for all of you who had joined in today and in the group also the ones who are already, we know that you guys are aspiring candidates and we would love to see as many of our country children moving out of the country and getting some experience. I have known that and I have had that experience and I know how important it is to get a good exposure when it comes up to your career. So definitely, when will the classes start? It will be uh, announced soon. Pretty much you can consider ASAP is the answer. Yeah, so reading is very difficult is why, because we are not used to, as I said, we are not used to reading quickly. So how we can read at a particular pace, that's another session. So we'll have multiple sessions, dear. You guys can keep joining in and, work around. And some of you who are really wanting to go in within next 2 to 3 months or have some time for around 2 to 3 months, or maybe more, you're more than welcome to join the course and that will be really helpful, I'm sure. We will be putting it up for all of you. I'm looking forward to interacting with a lot more of you again. So thank you so much for your time and how we can enroll. So we will have, I'm sure you all are there in the WhatsApp group. Say they're at the back end, the team will be taking notes as to who all are interested. They will get back to you and get you going ASAP. I'm looking forward to having many of you coming up and fulfilling your dreams and clearing IELTS with a very good band score. Thank you so much for your time taken today. You guys enjoy and all the best for your future too. Hoping to see some of you interacting ASAP again. See you in our next webinar and next session. Bye-bye.